Hello, everybody, and we are doing another one of Who's in the Wrongs episode because, well, as in the last one that they had an argument, you guys very much thought I was favoriting Moon, which in reality, yeah, kind of in the first one, yeah, I do admit I was kind of favoriting Moon at that time, but I was in a Pixar mood then, so yeah, but in the newest episode, I was not at one piece with that. I wasn't. I was giving them both therapy. Like with the whole honesty and all that. I wasn't favoriting either of them, but what really hurts me is what you guys think I'm that could be that shallow. My job is to not let biases get in my way of my thinking. That's my job. That's my job on this channel. So, let's get into this non-scripted video at all and just do this, shall we? So let's get into what actually happened in the episode. Moon was driving to the desert with Rowan, where Rowan was just basically just making fun of him because he doesn't have his memories, which is something we're going to get into later. Sun is in the middle of the desert, essentially. And then they have a big kind of like argument with a lot of stuff in there. I didn't want to say anything throughout the video because I didn't want to miss anything. So, now I wish I kind of did. But that's why I'm here now. So, let's get into this. I want to do an animatic today, but okay. Let's do this. Let's start off with Sun in this one. Sun was in all the right to feel the way that he wanted to feel. Because, well, he was just kidnapped. So the guy needs a break. Like a huge break, really. But also, Moon was throwing in some good points. But then again, my job is to put myself in the character's shoes. Which is what I'm going to do now. If I had amnesia, and the only people that I knew, the only source of information about my life, was basically planning on becoming a god for a few seconds and then just basically blowing up. Let me ask you a question. How would you feel about that? Of course, I would become the overprotective me and just become have a lot of anxiety, paranoia. Yeah. So that's essentially what Moon did. I'm no longer going to treat him like the old Moon. I mean, he doesn't want that, and I don't really tend to. I just point out all the stuff. But I'm gonna, yeah. How would you deal with that? And the next day when you go to clear your head, you find out they're kidnapped, and you have to play with an insane person with a video game where they just constantly just make fun of you for losing your memories and essentially telling you all the stuff and also threatening your family. That would get you on edge, the adrenaline would rush, and the anger would also go as well. So of course, when he was driving to go save Sun, and when he was continue to get angry, and when he was kept on being made fun of and all that stuff, of course, the anger would still be there. So, I don't blame the guy, but what I do blame the guy for is pushing all the stuff onto Sun. So let's dive into that. Sun has had a rough day. He didn't need this, but then again, it's the Sun and Moon show, so it's essentially Home and Away, but with a Five Nights at Freddy's and sci-fi twist. That's basically what it is. I'm not joking. So of course, Sun has had a huge few days. One of them, like, having a big fight with his brother, his brother nearly shooting him with a bunch of guns, probably with lasers. And then him getting kidnapped by someone insane, asking him all the questions that he doesn't want to answer, including if he still loves Luna, which made me cry. So he's been through a lot as well. And not to mention, he was dumped out in the middle of the desert. And if he was in the outback, there'd be very low chances of him actually surviving, and that's no way. Yes, that does include robots. So it would also be, if it was in the outback, it would be a huge risk to even drive out there, but don't worry, I'm not going to get into that, because they're quite clearly not in the outback. They were both in extreme amounts of stress and anger. Not really anger, but fear and anxiety. Sun was more like in the depression stage, and Ruin was just feeding on all the stuff that he basically hates about himself in a way. Meanwhile, Moon was just constantly just being told that his old him was a monster, and that was something that he already believes. So, let's get into the arguments, shall we? Trying to remember as much as possible. Okay. Of course, there was bound to be some stuff happening, because, again, if anything happened to my family members like that, I would be, it once happened to my sister once went missing for 20 minutes. I was worried sick. But that's nowhere close to this. But I acted the same way that Moon did, so if anything, Moon acted downgraded. So I'm just saying. And he pointed out, and he's just kept on saying that Sun just keeps on comparing him to the old him, which is not something that he should have done. But then again, he believes that the old him was a monster. And in a way, he's kind of right. But I've been psychoanalyzing the old him ever since I started watching the show, and ever since I actually started learning about psychology. And when I started learning about psychology, that was October. So I was therapizing him and Luna a lot. And I mean a lot, including Eclipse. So we threw out, and I went back to watch all the episodes to just therapize him again. And the old him, imagine something with a hard outside, but a creamy inside. I'm going to use an Aussie reference, and to the Aussies in the comment section, Fantails. Chocolate on the outside, but creamy caramel on the inside. Alan's, why did you have to bring that away? Why? Anyway. Still, with him being basically a lunar scenario, Luna was just created into existence and just told all this stuff. And basically wasn't treated very well at all. So, essentially, Moon was essentially going through the same thing, because he had no memories, he was just pushed into it and all that. So of course he would have had he wasn't really in a good headspace when he was told to watch the show over and over again. He would have he wouldn't have had a bright point of view to the old him. I'm not saying he should have had a glass full point of view. I'm just saying you shouldn't have a glass half empty. What I think you should have is just a glass filled halfway, or it's just a glass halfway full of water. Realistic in a way, point of view. Of course, he would have been like through a lot of anxiety and all that, and hardly knowing what the heck was going on, and he's still going through that a lot. So, putting yourself in that point of view. Now, his son, with all of the grief that he's been experiencing with the old moons being dead, not to mention the intrusive thoughts coming in, it was a huge step for him to tell Moon about this. And it was a huge step for him to open up a little bit in the last episode, which I cannot tell you how grateful I am for this. Sun's been through a lot within the last couple of months. He essentially, as Moon said, taken the old Moon's job, which is essentially the man of the family. Meanwhile, Moon is still kind of in that place as well. And of course, the worry and all that between both of them would cause clash. And he's not afraid to be honest. And when you're angry and full of anger, the amygdala, which is where all the anger and all that is stored, that takes over your brain. You can't think clearly and all that stuff. So, what was happening to him is that his full protection and anxiety and anger and all that just came out, and he just started spilling things out, asking hard questions to Sun. So, he was essentially like the Hulk, but not the Hulk. That's the best way I can explain it. Explain the amygdala. It's like the Hulk. So, of course, Sun would have been pressured with a lot of questions and all this. And not to mention, the guy needs a break. The guy needs probably some closure. If anything, he needs closure. Like how some people, after a breakup, they need closure, saying and all that stuff. I'm just saying this because I watch way too much sitcoms, so with that stuff, he needs closure, and that'll just help him calm down and all that. If he was to see Luna again and him say, "I don't blame you, son," and all that stuff, and for Moon to say that as well, that would help him. But with the amygdala and all that for the both of them, they're both in fight or flight response. So neither of them were in the right, neither of them were in the wrong. Moon just thinks of himself as the old him as a monster, and he's trying to grow from that. He shouldn't try to grow just because he thinks the old him was a monster. He should try to grow from the fact that he wants to, and if he does want to. But he shouldn't focus on the past, but focus on the future. Sun's is still in the past, and he needs help to go to the future. So, now, do you realize how I was defending them both last time? They are both neither in the right or in the wrong. So, I expect your apologies. The fan art competition is still going. You know the drill. Please like and subscribe and comment down below, and I'll see you in the next one.